Good evening, guys. I am trying to connect all our speakers. Hey, Tams.
Hi Amanda, how are you?
I'm all thanks. How are you?
Ah, man, I'm good. I'm good. It's just cold.
It's very cold. I think
Yeah.
Eastern Cape had a snow or something.
Yeah.
That's why we're suffering. It's always the case. Um, I'm actually still busy with dinner, but today's boat is being driven by Kels. So
Yeah,
I'll
no.
allow him to drive us today. And I think at 7:30 we can just open up the floor for questions. And yeah, I think we can try to have a short one today. Good evening, Keleto.
Hi Mandy, hi Tamsin and everyone.
Hi, how are you?
I'm alright, how are you?
Ah, man, I'm good. I'm
Yeah,
good. I'm good.
everything is fine. Thanks for throwing me under the bus. I didn't know I was driving the ship today, but
You were put on the spot.
but but I'm happy. I'm happy to do it. I'll do my best. It's my first time, but I'll do my best. Right? Um,
I've got you, don't worry.
yeah, no. If you see me struggling, step in.
No worries, man. That's fine. We'll jump in. We'll help each other. We're not drowning here at all today.
Yeah, no. Of course, the format of these spaces has always been that we are here to, just shoot the breeze and learn from what I've, experienced in these poultry spaces. So we're just shooting the breeze and trying to learn in an open learning environment. Ne? So today's space came about after a. Actually, wait. Let me do the right thing first. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Amanda, for organizing the space. This is a very, and very much anticipated space, I think, for a lot of us. And thank you, Tamsin, for accepting the invite to be our speaker today, to teach us everything we need to know. Well, get us started on what we need to know in terms of food safety so that we may be able to, grow and get the necessary certifications to supply the big guys and also in general to supply our customers with safe food. Okay, so thank you very much for accepting the invite, and we hope it's going to be a good one. Um,
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you
Okay,
now.
All right,
yeah.
cool. All right. I say we just jump in. I'm gonna give a little bit of background of what we need, especially from a farming perspective, but also from a processing perspective, because at the end of the day, that is where we are looking to grow into, is to do our own processing, and some of the food safety practices that goes along with that. Is that fine if I do that?
Yes, please. That is mostly what we are looking for. What we are
All
waiting
right.
to hear.
All right, cool. So just stop me along the way. If there's any questions, or like Amanda said, we will open the floor around half past. Um, and then if there's any special questions or even during the conversation, even from you, Kals, just give me a heads up if there is anything.
Uh,
All right, cool. So without
Tams,
any delays, yeah.
sorry. I think maybe if you can just introduce yourself to everyone so they know exactly who you are in why we called you specifically for this particular topic.
Okay, cool. No stress. Yeah, good evening, everybody. My name is Tamsin Mzozayana. I'm the owner of Crystal Consulting. We specialize in food safety implementation, training, and auditing. Um, and my focus currently is in the farming space, but agro processing and manufacturing as well. Um, I work a lot with emerging farmers, especially emerging farmers of color, to assist them with these implementing food safety practices um, and non-standard dependent. So we assist with HACCP, local and global gap, FSSC 22000, ISO 22000, 9001, whichever standard is food related and food safety and quality related. We do that. I'm also a third party auditor and trainer for Assure Cloud and Aspirata. And one of the services that we have added to the Crystal Consulting service package is pesticide testing, where it is one of the requirements for global and local gap to test your pesticide residues on your crops. And that is one of the services that we recently added. Okay, so that's me in a nutshell. And the services that I have, you can visit our website, Crystal Consulting. And if you have any questions, you can just fill in the info page or the info section at the bottom of the About Us page, or any of the pages at the bottom. There's a section where you can send a query, and we can assist you with whichever or whatever you are looking to do. All right, so we are focusing tonight on poultry. It's been a hot topic of late, and I guess because of the amount of imports currently of poultry coming into South Africa, we are trying to assist as many farmers possible to become compliant so that they can uh, enter their product into the retail space. Because at the end of the day, if you are a producer, that is where you are looking to go into the more formal space, whether it's supplying catering companies, hotels, restaurants, or retail outlets for that matter. If you are looking to formalize your business, you are going to, at some stage in your business, you are going to have to make the decision to either adopt local or global gap. Um, I'm going to start off by just giving a little bit of background regarding the standard, which is local and global gap. So the differences between the two is local gap, from the name you can already hear it's for the local market, which is the South African market. Global gap is for when you are looking to export your product. Export includes the countries inside of South Africa, Lesotho and Swaziland, because they have different regulations to ours. Uh, One of the important things that we need to note here is that um, each country has its own regulations that you need to abide by over and above the local and global gap standards. Um, and I'm specifically speaking about the exports here now. You need to adhere to things like the customs duty. If you are looking to export, there's additional documents like the phytosanitary requirements, etc., that you need to acquire. But nonetheless, let's tonight let's focus on the getting yourself compliant for the local market, but I will also touch on the export market. So this afternoon I had, or this morning I had a webinar, good agricultural practices with Advanced AG or Advanced Ag, and we discussed a few major the 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 standard requires you to adhere to some major musts. That's that we call it in the auditing space. And those are the topics that I will focus on today from a poultry point of view. So number one, obviously, is the biosecurity and site management, site history that we need to look at. That is the most important one, because that is where that's where people enter your space. That's the number one control measure that you can put in place as the farmer and as the agro processor. And we tend to forget the importance of having things like visitors logs for people that come into your space. I know that we are trying to grow, and we're trying to share information. So now you'll have Tamsin asking Amanda, can I come to your farm? I want to come see what you do. And then when you're gonna be surprised when I say no, because you do not know what bacteria and viruses that person is bringing onto your farm. And people get offended by this a lot. But unfortunately, in the age that we are in currently, in the day and age that we are in currently, we have outbreaks of avian influenza, we have outbreaks of foot and mouth, and you do not know where that person was previously. So if you do allow, let's say, contractors onto your premises, you need to please have a visitor's log of those people coming into your space. So when there is a possible outbreak, you can trace it back to a Tamsin or Amanda or Kels or whoever was at your farm. So I need people to understand what the importance is of actually completing a visitor's log and having site management um, at their premises, because that is where it feeds in. It feeds into traceability, but not just into traceability of diseases, also traceability of there might have been someone that stole something from you, and that is just how you can trace it back. Also, another big one in terms of site management is your farm suitable for what you are producing? Um, and the example that I'm going to make is I can't go and put my chickens in a cow pen or in a pen that was used for livestock previously, or that was used for crops, um, because you don't know the suitability of that specific ground, or um, the suitability of the area. And I'm going to refer back to the livestock usage, because there was manure contains specific things that might be harmful to your chickens. Now you have broilers um, stepping in a pen that was used previously for cows or goats or whatever livestock, and they carry that disease that might be detrimental to your chickens. So that is also something that you need to consider when you are selecting your farming space, and if it is suitable for your space. Keleto?
Yes, Temzen, just
Mm.
a quick question about the visitors logs, right?
Yeah.
What do they need to look like? So can you just have a book at the gate, or a book that you keep somewhere on the farm, and then whenever someone comes onto the farm, you just write their name, when they came, and like what like if I was to start a visitors log tomorrow, what would I need to have in the as a visitors log?
Okay, cool. So it's a book is fine. You can use anything any piece of or record, any record of a person setting food onto your farm. That can be in the form of a book, of a sheet that you can create. You can print it out, and your security personnel can have it at the gate. What it just needs to include is the name of the person, registration number, who they are coming to see, the responsible person. Um, at most sites, they will ask for security to call that specific person to tell them or to make sure that you are actually being met by someone at the farm. Because a lot of the times you can let that person in, they roam around freely on your farm and actually end up harming your animals. Um, so that's an important one. And then cell phone number a contactable number. So that's it. And maybe temperature. Um, a lot of people still do temperature in terms of COVID.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's a very basic one that you can have.
Okay. Can I ask to take a little bit of a step back?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So we were talking local gap here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So other than local, so from my understanding, local gap is designed to be a stepping stone to global gap,
Yeah.
right? So what if uh what if I don't have any ambitions of going into the export market? Is local gap the be all and end all of certifications within South Africa? Do all the retailers take local gap, or are there any other certifications and standards that need to be followed or that can be followed to gain some kind of certification?
Okay, cool. Good question. Local gap was created because global gap was so far off, and um, the implementation took quite a bit out of an emerging farmer for that matter. Um, Global gap is not just for export. So you can have global gap and only supply locally. Um, and that is why they kind of created local gap as a stepping stone to global gap. The difference between the two is some retailers are going to ask you, and I know a lot of suppliers of your big fours, your Pick and Pay, Checkers, Woolies, and Spars. A lot of Spars are independently owned, so they're a little bit better to get around. But let's say the big three, they are going to ask you to have that in place, especially Woolies. They are big on global gap. Um, so the difference between the two is with global gap you get a license with a GGN number. Same with local gap. However, you need to renew it, and the assumption is that you have your local gap for 12 months, and after that you go to global gap, or you convert, quote unquote, to global gap. However, There is room for renewal for local gap after the 12 months, where you will get a certificate to say that you have adhered to local gap practices, and with global gap you get the actual certification. So that's the only difference between the two. I see Amanda has a hand up.
Yes, Tams. I just wanted to find out what is it that a farmer or an emerging farmer actually needs to do in order to qualify for Global Gap. What are the requirements on the list?
So yeah, there is quite a bit of things that you need to adhere to. I'm gonna name them quickly. So number one is the site history. That's a very big one. Number two, and also you can check this on the Global Gap website. They have a self-assessment document that you can review with all of the requirements set out. I'll just list them for you quickly. So it's the site history and site management. Then we have waste management and integrated pest management, crop protection and plant protection. That's in the pesticides, herbicides, any of that spraying chemicals that you have, fertilizers as well. You need to ensure that everybody using the chemicals are trained, um, and they have a history of using the chemicals. If we're looking at poultry spaces, you need to ensure that the people administering your vaccines, any medicine, anything that you are providing to your chickens, that they are trained to do so. Um, in terms of waste management from a poultry point of view, when do you remove your manure? When is your beds being turned? And whenever that action is happening, you need to make a note of it. You need to record it. I can't stress enough um, the documentation that you keep filling in. Any documents that you are filling in, you need to keep it. You need to make note of it. You need to keep that, and according to the standard, you need to keep all of your documents for at least a minimum amount of 2 years. That's the number one thing the auditor is going to look at, um, in terms of your documentation and your record keeping. Then from a poultry point of view, you need to do pest management. I was speaking to someone else the other day. They had a rodent problem. So you are going to have to get someone in terms of pest management. Some of the companies that I've used before is Rent-A-Kill. Um, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. So what they will do is they will come out and actually see what type of pests you have on your farm, and work out a program for you according to what is there. So you have your field mice. You have, let's say, for instance, you are closer to a domestic space. Then you have your domestic mice. Um, because we are in open spaces, there's rabbits, there's a lot of possible pests that you can identify. So that is something that you need to have in place, pest management system. Then you need to do risk assessments for all of your chemicals that you are using in your plant, or in your poultry facility. By chemicals, I mean if it's cleaning chemicals, um, is your medicines or your vaccines that you're using, are they harmful to one, your workers, number two, the animals themselves. And then that brings me to animal welfare then. That is a very, very big one that we have seen show a lot of been shown concern about of late, is where you're raising chickens in harsh, harsh conditions, and it's all for the sake of just raising chickens and not actually because you are looking to produce food for consumers to then consume at the end of the day. So that's animal welfare. Then we have your worker welfare and your personnel. Um, if you have workers that stays on site, they need access to clean water, clean change rooms, clean facilities. Let me just do a blanket statement and say clean facilities. The welfare of your workers is audited by social compliance, and that is also one of the certificates that you need when you enter the export market. Not so much the local market, but they want to see that you adhere to um, health, health and safety practices for your workers. So that's that point. Yo, guys, I can go on and on and on. But the most important ones is then the last one that I'm gonna make mention of is hygiene, and food safety. What that basically encompasses is you need to have food safety protocols and practices in your farm, and for your personnel to be trained on those practices. And while I mentioned training is also a very big one um, for internal procedures as well as external training. So internal training will most likely be given by the food safety person on site, and then external training is given by food safety specialists like myself or whoever is in the industry. And those will include local and global gap standards, food safety practices, food handlers practices, things like that. Um, what I would recommend everybody to do that is on the space is go to the Global Gap website. There is a self assessment document that will give you a lot of guidance in terms of the procedures that you need to look at. Um, there's specific clauses that is unpacked in that document, and you can just familiarize yourself with it. What someone said on the training this morning is it's easy to look at the document and see what there is, but it's sometimes difficult to interpret. Um, if you need any assistance, my DMs are open. My email address is also in my bio, I think. Or you can go to the website and fill in that the info page. Yeah. Does in Kels must we open the floor to questions? Because, like I said, there's quite a few things that we can cover. I just wanted to cover the basic ones that we need to give attention to, and I also just want to highlight that if you are slaughtering, you're gonna need a different standard to the actual farm practices. So local and global gap as good agricultural practices, those are only applicable to your farm or to your house, your poultry house. When you take the chicken out of the house into the slaughtering facility, you are moving over to a different space, right? So now we're moving into the agro processing space or the manufacturing and processing space, where you're dealing with a different standard, because now it's not an animal anymore, it's now a food product, because the animal is not alive anymore. You are turning it into a portion of food. And that's where you're going to go into the territories of HACCP, good manufacturing practices, um, FSSCs and the likes. However, there are a lot of good standards that you can look into, a lot of um, standards that is accepted by all of the retailers in South Africa. But I just want us to make that distinguishing factor that when you're moving away from the farm into the processing facility, it is a different standard that we're looking at altogether.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. That what do we do now when we slaughter on our farm? Because there's a lot of us who slaughter our chickens and dress them and package them for our customers. So I often wonder. I do the same thing for some of my customers that ask me to make chickens for them that way. And I often, I've been ignoring looking into what the regulations say, you know, partly
Please
to,
don't.
no, I'm trying to maintain plausible deniability and say, I didn't know, guys. But I imagine that there's some kind of um, liability. Is it okay to do that? Is the question I'm trying to ask. Is it okay to do that, to slaughter chickens for our customers?
Um, the long of the short, no. Um, the reason why I say that is the Meat Safety Act requires you to only slaughter for traditional purposes, or slaughter at home for traditional purposes, and not for the sale of any type of meat. It can be dog meat or whatever meat it might be. You are not allowed to slaughter at home for if you are making a profit from that sale of that meat. So yeah, no, you're not allowed to. However, I also do understand that we are growing farmers and we are don't have access to an abattoir, which is the difficult part. Um, I've been working with an emerging farmer in the KZN area, and they built a small quote unquote slaughtering facility. Um, and it's not even a rural abattoir. It's not. It has the basics. It basically has she has all of her equipment to slaughter in a safe manner. Um, the most important thing is you just need to adhere to the basic practices of slaughtering, right? And regardless of how much we're going to say that it's not safe, it's not according to regulation, sometimes or not sometimes, most times, emerging farmers don't have the capital to go to the abattoir or to whatever the case may be. And to work around that, um, I've been interacting with a lot of poultry farmers, and one of the things that I can say is, if you have I'm not even going to say a back room, if you have a space, right, that is clean, it has the stainless steel tables, it has um, the it has the equipment for you to slaughter in a safe way. There is a way that we can assist you to still get your facility, quote unquote, approved for slaughter. However, you're gonna just have to speak to The VPH is the Veterinary Practice of Veterinary Institute, where they will assign you a vet to do your inspections. That is when you're supplying to or a meat examiner when you are supplying to your retailers, because that is one of the big things that the retailers require, is that your meat was inspected by a meat examiner, right? And this is when we now moving over to the abattoir spaces where they already have a meat examiner. They have all of the facilities. You merely go and drop off your live birds, and then you come and pick up your slaughtered birds again. Um, so that makes it easier, and that's why the cost is a little bit higher in terms of slaughter and expenses then. But I do understand that we do not all have access to an abattoir. At least when you do slaughter, do it in a safe way, so that you do not pose a risk, or you do not introduce new hazards to the slaughtering of your birds. I as an auditor, I don't want to lie and say that it is allowed. We encourage everybody to go to an abattoir, but yeah, we need to also be realistic in terms of the resources that we have access to.
Oh, all right,
Um,
all right. Okay, go ahead, Aminda.
sorry. Um, the reason behind this space was after we were looking at chicken exports and realized that there's so many health and safety standards that we have to meet in order for us to actually be able to take our chickens out to the EU, for example. And we thought maybe we could start here at home and see how that could work out. But what I'm picking up is that it's actually not as cheap or cheaper compared to the EU exporting when you're trying to get the gap certification. But maybe I am wrong. If times you can just tell us around about how much exactly would a person be looking at spending in order to get you as the auditor, get the rodent guys, get the vet, if they want to basically start from being certified to to supply chickens to okay, or to have the certification, and then also be certified to slaughter at your own place. Would it be cheaper to go pay 10 rands per chicken at an abattoir, or would it eventually become cheaper with my own vet and my own abattoir in my own space?
Okay, good question. All right. There's no one price that fits everybody. So, for instance, if we're looking at someone that has 1,000 chickens, for instance, with one house, that will be completely different to someone that's producing 5,000 per cycle. And that's just an example that I want to make. But to give you a blanket costing, if you are looking at a local and global gap, or I'm just going to give you a ballpark figure, global gap can be anything from 10,000 to 20,000 Rand for certification only, depending on the size of your facility. I can bring it down a bit to say between 10 and 15,000 Rand. Um, yeah, depending on your facility and the size of your facility or the size of your farm. So if you have a bigger farm, it is going to be more expensive than when you have obviously a smaller establishment with smaller cycles. That's from a certification point of view. For me, from an implementation point of view, is like I said, I work mostly with emerging farmers. So I have packages where I speak to the farmer and I tailor make a package to that farmer's needs. If he or she tells me I have 10,000 Rand, for instance, to spend, we work with that. Because at the end of the day, we are looking to get into the formal market. And the reason why I encourage farmers to get a food safety system on site is you are going to see so much return when you start adapting food safety practices, because now you are going to stand out as a supplier to, like Amanda said, a OK or a Spar or a Pick and Pay, because now you have that piece of paper that everybody wants, right? We are all farmers, and we can all be farmers. However, we can't all be farmers that, or local or global gap farmers. Or accredited farmers. And that is what's going to set you apart from every other farmer that doesn't have accreditation. The reason I say that is the consumer trust, or the confidence that a Spar or a Pick and Pay or Checkers is going to have with doing business with Amanda or Tamsin or whoever that may be is, at the end of the day, they're going to have the peace of mind to say that, oh, okay, when there is an outbreak of salmonella, for instance, I can go back to Amanda and ask her, can I look at your microbial analysis records and see if you had salmonella in your chickens 2 weeks ago? You get what I mean? When we are going to a farmer that is not certified, they don't have that practice at all. They do not have records of testing. They don't have records of, did I vaccinate this cycle? Did I not vaccinate this cycle? So those are all of the things that you need to consider when you are thinking, I don't have the money, or I don't have the whatever. Do I need to, is local gap or is food safety something that I need to consider? And up the if you weigh up the benefits, that is always gonna outweigh all of the cons that you might have. Is you are gonna be that farmer that is set apart from everybody else, because you have that piece of paper. So in terms of costing, I really can't give you a blanket cost. Um, like I said, I work on a farmer to farmer basis. And I would like to assist anybody out there that is literally, when they get to that decision of, okay, let me go over this hurdle. I want to be there and say, listen, um, funds shouldn't be a problem for you to actually reach your end goal. Because if you reach the point of, let me start implementing food safety practices, sure, I would commend you for that, because we don't get there, we don't get a lot of farmers that come to that point of actually wanting to implement food safety. They're just like, oh no, I'll wait until something happens. But what I normally tell farmers is, you don't have the deep pockets that the big corporates have to pay out settlement fees and whatever the case may be. So I come in with the statement of prevention is better than cure. You don't want anybody else's life on your hands, because if you do not have these food safety practices in place, I know it's a little bit dramatic, but if we look at the biggest listeria outbreak in South Africa, lives were lost, and that would never absolve you as a farmer from wherever you may be from. It can never absolve you in terms of not being responsible. If you cause harm to someone else, it will always be your responsibility. If I knowingly sell chicken with salmonella to the public, I know that I'm going to be held accountable if anybody gets sick or dies or whatever the case may be. So if you are weighing up the options, if you need to adopt a food safety system, start there first. Start thinking of the safety of your consumers first, and then after that, like I said, you're always going to be the farmer that is set apart from everybody else that does not have the certification. Yeah, Amanda.
Okay, thank you for that, Tams. And it's basically what Mr. Isaac was preaching as well. Just as a follow up to the pricing, I've heard once upon a time that government does fund green farmers in regards to certification to access markets. I just wanted to find out if you have any knowledge in regards to poultry spaces or poultry sector or meat sector, whereby the government has has lended an assisting hand to a farmer to actually acquire all these certifications.
I do know that they assist with local gap. I just don't know um, in which areas. I've seen some activity in the northwest of where you get in contact with your extension officer and they would then facilitate that process. However, in the Gauteng region, I am not sure. The last webinar that I attended, they did make mention of um, rural development, said that they do assist farmers. However, I do not know who the contact person there is, but I do know that they do help um, farmers. I'm not sure if it's specifically poultry or crops. I just know that they do lend assistance with assisting farmers in terms of local gap. So I would recommend that you get in contact with your extension officer. I know this is a bit like shooting in the dark. Um, so if you do have access to someone in the department, um, yeah, they do assist. I the last that I heard that is that they do assist.
I think in most cases than not, we are fearful of having those people from the department come into our workspaces because, you know, once they come and they tell you that is wrong, fix that, do that, um, then it would definitely mean you have to go back to work or go back to the drawing board. I know personally, I've once contacted them for other reasons, and they said that I should tell them when I'm around and they would come. And then I thought, okay, I need to start fixing things because certain things are not the way that they are supposed to. And yeah, basically. So guys, I think when you're ready and you know that you're in the right space to actually invite them, they're going to come. I know people always say government isn't doing much, but in the agricultural space, I think it's not too shabby, really, as long as you call them out, or you reach out to them, they will come through. Norma is busy trying to connect. I think she has questions. But for now, guys, we did say that the space would open up for questions at 7:30. It's now 7:50. So I'm guessing people don't have questions anymore. Abuti, good evening. You've been quiet. Have you given up on reaching Spa Pick and Pay checkers?
No, 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 no. Greetings to everyone, the great speakers and the listeners. I haven't given up on anything yet. I still have the market that I'm currently saving to conquer. So I think that there will be time when I've saturated my market that I will need to move into other markets. But for me, obviously, I have I took time to attend the poultry abattoir management course. I think it was last year, and I always make it a point now that every year I take a course as far as poultry is concerned. So one thing I can tell you is that it's not that small scale farmers don't want to comply with anything. It has to do with affordability, first of all. It's not there's no one who wakes up and says, look, I'm choosing not to comply with ABC. If you can afford it, you do it. But unfortunately, I mean, where we come from as Africans. So there's people in my DMs always looking for how can I start now with what I have. And when a person asks you a question like that, and I say to them, look, I understand you can't afford a drinker or a feeder. Just go buy a pipe and cut it in half. Then I come back and expect that person to comply with certain requirements. Obviously, that is just on another level. But what I've noticed is regarding the good agricultural practices is that people who then go into contract farming, they comply. This is what I'm seeing with a lot of farmers around Restavente. I mean, I'm staying up about how many kilometers from Eagle's Pride? Say about 15 kilometers from Eagle's Pride. No, 20, 25 kilometers. They're just on the other side. And all their farms, it's like you can see top-notch biosecurity stuff. You can't just walk in there and enter. You probably have to make a few phone calls and give reasons why you are there and why you are entering. There's specific designated areas for your car. The biosecurity is just on another level. So we know these things. Some of them we can see what must be done, but unfortunately, I mean, also talking about slaughtering on site. Many farmers know that it's actually not acceptable for you to slaughter and sell if you are not a registered abattoir. And I mean, we know about the medium throughput and the local, what you call rural abattoirs. But once again, money is the issue. So, yeah, just talking to the issue of whether I've given up or not. And what I've also seen farmers do, because I talk to a lot of farmers on a daily basis. Let me just see, maybe my brother is in here. Brother, I'll talk about you. So what this one farmer does is he supplies directly to the abattoir. So what I've seen with them is they actually don't care much about what's happening at the farm because they have the inspectors at the abattoir. So and he pays something like 8 Rand 50 or 10 Rand, depending on which one he's using. And they obviously have all the meat inspectors and all these things that are required as far as health is concerned. So yeah, one of the reasons why I don't slaughter myself on site, and I don't like doing it, I've never done it for a customer before. The only time I slaughtered the chicken was when I was at school and I was forced to do it because I wouldn't complete a course without doing it. But what I've realized then is that, like, I know this for a fact. There are farmers who are slaughtering, but they know you're not supposed to do that. We all know that. We know the risk that it carries. I do, however, have one question for Tamsin. Or rather, any speaker who can answer the question. One thing that surprises me, I forgot to ask this question at school, is why are farmers allowed to sell a live chicken, but they're not allowed to sell a slaughtered chicken? Are they then moving the responsibility to the person who's going to slaughter it for himself, should anything happen? That's the only question I have. Otherwise, great space, very informative. I'm taking notes. Thank you very much.
Look, in terms of the selling of live chickens, that's also a different can of worms in terms of regulations. So you are actually not allowed to sell a live chicken if you are not regulated to do so. So yeah, you're also not if and I've been following what you've been saying in terms of the slaughtering and the slaughtering practices. You're actually not allowed to sell a live chicken as well if you are not regulated to do so. However, one thing that I picked up with the state of people's farms when they are producing to, let's say, for instance, Eagles Rock or Eagles Pride or whoever that may be, is that you will get the support from your supplier or from your customer in terms of getting you to a food safety point or from a food safety point of view. And just to make mention of someone is I recently I interacted with someone that started supplying for McCain, and they actually got the farmer local gap accredited food safety when you are cutting and all of those things. So what the nice thing is to work with or to have an offtake agreement or an MOU with a bigger corporate is you have access to all of their resources in terms of food safety, because they have quality departments that work with these things on a regular basis, and they have quality personnel that will guide you in terms of the regulations that you need to have in place. And yeah, the slaughtering thing is a very big issue amongst emerging farmers. Like you said, we all know that you are not allowed to, but unfortunately, the economy is of such a nature that sometimes you have to make ends meet, and you are not close to an abattoir. If you live in, for instance, if you live in Maluti in rural Eastern Cape, where the closest abattoir is in Kokstad. So are you going to drive 50, 60 kilometers to that abattoir, or are you going to slaughter at home? Those are some of the things that we need to consider. I'm not saying that slaughter at the back of your house. It's just sometimes we need to be mindful of people's um, situation as well.
Sure. So we're all just a bunch of illegal traders selling selling chicken illegally. Papa Rula, good evening, my brother.
Good evening, everyone. I've been to spaces for some time.
Get closer to your phone, Abuti.
Okay, can you hear me now properly?
Yes.
Okay, maybe let me try to move the connected speaker so that you can hear me properly. Okay, can you now hear me?
100%.
Okay, thank you. I think this is just going to be a comment, not a question. Before I became a full-time poultry farm, I used to work at the mines, but before then, I'm a qualified environmental health practitioner. I'm actually qualified food safety practitioner as well. So I know all the drills in terms of all the compliances that needs to be, observed before you can process food and all that. I think I used to have the same views as the guest in terms of compliance. You need to understand the risks thereof when you produce food and you feed to the people. However, as soon as I got to be on full time on food production myself, I then got to see the gaps that actually exist between being a formal trader and being an informal trader. Not only as a supplier or as a producer or manufacturer, also as a customer. We've got so many rural villages. I think majority of our South African people lives in villages. Most don't even afford to go to town and buy from a registered entity or food producer or a supermarket. They still rely to buy chickens from those that are not even registered themselves. So there's a big market amongst informal producers and informal customers, if I can put it in that way. And unfortunately, the legislation doesn't consider that. It only considers formalities, if I can put it in that way. So if I stay in a deep rural area and I produce chickens, even if I can be fully compliant with some standards, which I think that's where the guest is actually taking us to, it don't even make sense to those people that you're actually supplying them. It can only make sense to your spas and so forth, or to your formal markets and supermarkets. So legislation, unfortunately, has been created in a way that we should all be formal. We should all be complying to standards that we obviously adopted from obviously the Europe, from the Westerns and so forth. But traditionally, we must also look into that. And of course, the risk is there. If you're selling a live chicken or a slaughtered chicken to someone else and there's an outbreak or there's a disease and there's whatever, obviously someone needs to be accounted for. And that's where everything comes in. But my point is, the law, unfortunately, it's only suited for the formals, not for the informals. But there is a demand and there is a space for informals. And there's nothing that I can do about it. And our government is not actually doing anything about it. It's pushing for us to be formalized. But unfortunately, there's still a customer that is informalized themselves. And they can only they can only rely on the informals as well. So that's how I see things now. And I don't know who's going to close that gap to legislate informality as well, in a way that they can still be accountable in however, So that's basically that. But lastly, what I want to say is, once you go formalized, you are now being forced to adhere to pricings that are formalized, which may not be affordable to the informalized that I'm talking about. I'm talking customers and clients. So now it's a catch-22, but we are forced to formalize. But unfortunately, majority are informalized. And with our economy with our history, as Bible said, and with our circumstances as Africans, I don't think we will ever be formalized as the system requires. I think that's what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Abuti, um, we want to get formalized, Ditle Paparula. We want to get formalized. I think that's why we called Tamsin. After we were thinking about exporting prime cut chicken breasts to the EU, since there's so much imported chicken in South Africa, it would be great to also get paid in euros. So yes, in terms of rural areas, certain things do not apply to them, but it's great to know in order for us to get where we want to get to, because a lot of us want contract farming, because that is the way to grow. We can't be raising 1,000, 2,000 chickens forever. We want to get to a space where they say every 2 weeks or every week, bring us 5,000 chickens. And in order for us to be able to do that, we need to be compliant. We need to have the certification that would allow us into those type of doors. And like Tam said, at Spa, they're not so strict. That's why you find that Spa sells meat at affordable prices, vegetables and fruits at affordable prices, because they buy directly from the farmer. But they do have a bit of strict measures when it comes to meat, because, if we think back to listeriosis, especially with poultry has a lot of diseases that can be fatal to the consumer. So it's always best to know what it is that you need to do. We're trying to grow, not mushroom. Let's just grow and be tall like trees. Abuti, you had your hand up. I don't know if you ended up being covered since you took it down again. Abuti Tuhang?
Oh, yeah, you know what? I was taking notes as Mr. Paparella was also talking there. Something came to my mind that actually with small scale farmers, maybe you look at it and say maybe there's not that much risk as far as health is concerned, but this will be a question to say that because we're buying feed that is what can I say, that is approved, for consumption of the chickens, and I mean you follow your withdrawal periods for your antibiotics and so forth. So I don't know if there's much risk in that as far as the small scale farmer is concerned. This was actually also a follow-up to the initial question that why is it that one is allowed to sell a live chicken to a customer, but not slaughter it. So I just had that thought that maybe the fact that you're using feed that is acceptable in a way because it's healthy for your chickens. So would there be risk there as far as the consumer is concerned? But that was just that. I then my question was answered as time went. That's fine.
Okay, I just want to follow up on that. We actually, as small farmers, face more risk because our farmers might be in areas not suitable for farming, or we might be slaughtering in areas that is not suitable to slaughter in. Hence, we face more food safety concerns. So, from that point of view, you from the feed point of view, yes, but also no, because if you're merely providing feed, if you are providing, yeah, no, the feed it doesn't have a relationship with your food safety. If you are providing feed that is not of standard, then that might pose a risk. or feed that you bought from someone on the street, that might pose a risk. However, we actually are more at risk in terms of a food safety outbreak because we are seen as emerging and small farmers. We carry most of the risk. Just to add to your answer.
John Steph, good evening.
Yes, how are you, madam?
Welcome
Hello?
to my brother.
How
Yes.
are you? You
Do
all
you have
right?
a question?
No, I'm so busy, like 2 minutes. I'll be back to you guys. You can pick someone else. I'm still busy. I come here, so you can pick someone else, be discussing like 2 to 3 minutes.
All right. Um, so
I'm
Tams,
sorry. I'm sorry.
okay, thank you. Please mute your microphone. So Tams, the same regulations or the same standards apply to people doing egg farming, right?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, but
We
it's
have
just the meat safety and the meat regulatory meat safety act that's not obviously the same as for the slaughtering side of things. But in terms of food safety, it's the same, 100% the same.
you mean in getting the GAP certification?
Yes, yes. Obviously, there's going to be specific procedures that is going to be um, for either layers or either broilers. But in terms of compliance, according to the GAP standard, yes, it is the same.
Okay, Papa Rula, you had your hand up.
Oh yes. I just wanted I wanted you not to sort of misunderstand me in a way that Iwakari, I'm saying we should not be compliant.
No, I
I'm
get you, Abuti.
I'm actually I'm actually on both sides of the fence because of I'm from the formal industry, you know. So I understand what is required, and we should do that in terms of, you know, trying to make sure people comply. There's no risk. There's no uh, outbreaks. You know, hygiene standards are observed. Meat safety regulations are also observed. What I was just trying to say is, when you are on the other side, you may see things differently compared to when you are sort of on the other side as well, on the left side. So yes, we obviously want to grow. However, we are just, me and you and everyone here are not in a position to say no, F the laws, F the regulations because of this and that. But we just, however, all I'm just trying to say is we must also be considerate of, you know, informality as well, because of it's there and it exists, and it must be somehow managed in a way. But I don't have answers, as I said. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
now,
no,
now
absolutely.
I understand what Paparola is saying. The local market also needs a lot of, well, not a lot of regulation, but we need something there in place so that people also have, like, rural people can't now be abandoned and you say, nah, you don't deserve safe food, you know, because I've heard like farmers talking about giving chickens antibiotics to improve the taste, guys, and those kinds of practices sometimes worry me that now because we're in the rural areas now, people won't have access to safe food, and we somehow need to organize it so that people in rural areas also can get access to food that will be safe for their consumption.
Yes, there's a DM that is actually saying that even if you are in the rural, you also, the people in the rural also deserve to consume healthy food, or food that meets healthy standards. There are people that feed their chickens the weirdest of things. And in terms of pigs, you would find people feeding pigs everything. And you get that the pig has so much fat percentage in comparison to the pig that you would find that is raised with proper feed, proper pig feed. So the DM is also stating that if only government could have vets in rural areas. I would just like to say that they actually do have people go to rural areas from the government. Um, 2 weeks ago, we had somebody that came to mark our cows with the registered mark. So, guys, yes, we may have a lot of cries in regards to what government is not doing, but in the agricultural space, if you reach out, you are bound to get some sort of help. Like Tamsin said, reach out to your extension officer and see what you can be able to get to happen for you. Yes, Abutito Khan?
Oh yeah,
Yes, I'm
thank you.
back.
I just wanted to state that the mere fact that we have spaces like this and you see farmers are in here simply says that farmers want to do better. And then I don't know any farmer personally who doesn't prepare healthy chickens for consumption. I've always stated this, that when you're dealing with a person who sees you as a human being, they will never give you plastic for food. So the thing is that knowledge is available for those people who are willing to learn, and that's why we have these groups where we invite farmers and we talk about such things. So some people do these things because they had someone say, look, this is what I'm giving the chickens and that's what I'm doing. But most farmers that I come across, that I talk to, I tell them, guys, look, this is not what you do. And there's ethics because even their family members are eating those chickens. So I'm actually responding to the DM that says even people in rural areas deserve food that is safe, health and safety compliant. That I don't think is actually an issue because farmers are ethical people. Even though we are not necessarily, some of us, we don't have those certificates, that doesn't mean we don't practice, we don't raise our chickens in an ethical manner. I mean, I talk to most of the farmers in the space. Surprisingly, I probably think about, if not 20 people in here have my contact numbers. We talk about withdrawal periods, observations. We talk about your hygiene at the farm. You know this. I remember Paparola once came to my farm and he was not happy with something and he mentioned it to my workers. I wasn't present. And he also called me and we discussed that, no, look, man, this is what you can do better as far as the biosecurity is concerned and how, like from the gate when he entered with his vehicle. So that tells me that there are a lot of farmers who, in a way, we are already working at, I will say, in the neighborhood of being able to get certification, but that is the bare minimum. That is what we do. That's why many farmers, I mean, I remember going to one farmer in Limpopo. He came to the gate with a pressure sprayer full of Virakill, sprayed the vehicle, the wheels and everything like that. The biosecurity was on point, but he doesn't have any certification. And he's also aware that he needs to observe biosecurity and he needs to observe withdrawal periods. And let me tell you the reason why is because you don't want anyone to get sick after consuming your chicken. So you make sure that you give them the best so that you don't experience that problem. And should tests and anything be done, they will find that the problem is not coming from you. I just wanted to address that people shouldn't think that just because small scale farmers don't have those required certificates in certain places, that doesn't mean they are not compliant. They are very mindful of that. I know a lot of them in here who are taking those courses that we take at the KZN Poultry Institution, and we are being taught these things. So yeah. So as Amanda was just responding to that DM. Thank you very much.
All right. People are struggling with network. I was going to take one more question, but they keep getting kicked out. Norma has been trying to speak since the space started, but she's struggling with network. So I think we're going to be doing our closing remarks. Yes, Abute.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to. I don't know if this is appropriate or not, but I wanted to acknowledge all the listeners in here, including Dr. Nkosana Dlamini Zuma, who's joined us. I've attended a few of the parliamentary sittings where she has been talking, and she's been quite an advocate for small scale farmers. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to say we're very grateful that you are here. So it means that at least we're being heard and we've been listening to. So perhaps we can start seeing some traction somewhere. Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you very much. You can continue, also, Amanda.
Yeah, I actually wanted to do that as well, but I don't see her anymore. So I'm guessing you can see her, and we're seeing different listeners. Yes. Oh, John Stev, are you back now? We can
Yes.
give you the last question and then close the space.
Thank you for hosting the space and for allowing me to have this opportunity. You see, you've been talking about poultry. No, I'm in East Africa, in Uganda, where death is always there. It's among the things that are being practiced in this side, and I think the problem of these people, they're meeting, there are a lot of things they are missing in this poultry keeping or poultry thing. One is that everyone in Uganda want to practice the thing, want to do poultry keeping, but they don't have ideas on how it works. They should bring up, you guys, if you're the one who own the things, you should go down to the villages, and you come up with trainings, you come up with everything to help these farmers. Because you see someone is going to invest the money in the poultry, and at the 2 days, I was somewhere in Uganda here in district coaching, when someone bought even the 500 chickens, and he was about like in 2 days all were died. So that was the loss. Because he entered into the business, you don't know how it is working, you don't know how they handle the little chickens, you don't know the feeds, you don't know what. So this is the one of the problem people are facing in East Africa. And I think it is good business. It is good business. It earns everything. But I don't know people who are responsible for these farmers. If they try to go down to see if these people can work again, they did something of monitoring the market. You find two entities in Uganda that the one taking over all the country. They are supplying within the country. They are even supplying outside the country, whereby these small farmers won't get that opportunity. The big entities want to go and buy for the small farms or small farmers, and then on low prices, whereby I think the market can be the equity. It should be on equity. Everyone to access the market in the Africa. That's the second problem I'm seeing on this. I'm not more especially on poultry thing. For me, my work is I'm deep in food waste. I'm campaigning in this side of East Africa, Rwanda, Uganda, about food waste. Again, is this something of food waste? The packaging.
Sorry, John Stev, sorry to cut you there, my brother.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we can't be of help in West Africa since we're very much south of Africa. Um, Perhaps if you can DM me, I'll try to link you up with Mr. Robert, who is from Kenya. Maybe he can
But
assist you with those type of problems.
I think this issue is always among Africa. It's in Africa. Some people are
No,
taking over the territory
sorry,
of this
Mr.
thing.
John Steph. This is not the kind of space. Sorry, my brother. We want to close.
Okay, ma. Okay. Thank
Thank
you
you.
for that.
Tams, closing remarks, just a word of, encouragement or, you know.
Um, for for you guys to have asked me to speak on this space means a lot. It means that we are moving in the right direction. We are moving to a place where we want to adhere to regulations and protocols. However, like everybody has mentioned, is there is that one hurdle of capital involved to get these things in place. And one thing that Tsuhang mentioned is the interaction with the ministers and the people that's actually showing change, and that is that's there that can influence change. So I am so grateful for the opportunity, and I just want to reiterate, if there is anything that anybody needs after the space, please just DM me or send me an email, or like I said, visit the website. I am literally on this path, and I have chosen this path because there is such a big need for guidance amongst emerging farmers, and moreover so black emerging farmers. And like Paparola said, there is a market in the informal trade, um, but we also need to look at adopting food safety practices wherever you are and wherever you may find yourself, because at the end of the day, it is our responsibility to provide safe food to whoever. To if you're in the rural areas, if you're in the suburbs, it is our responsibility to provide food that is safe to consume to everybody out there, and that is what everybody deserves. So yeah, guys, I had fun. um, we had some good questions. I really appreciate it. Please reach out if there is anything after this that you need. And I commend everybody that is on this journey. It's not an easy journey. But the fact that we are here tonight means a lot already. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you so much, Tams. Papa Rula, closing remarks, Abuti?
Oh no, thank you so much for the space. It was very informative. It actually sort of recalibrated my mind in terms of adherence and so forth, and confirming to the standards. And I think that's where we should be going, of course. And yeah, Amanda, thank you so much for this great space. We really appreciate you. Yeah, you are really setting a trend here. And yeah, good night to you all.
Abuti ke kgopela o ntlogele hle. Abuti Tsohang, closing remarks.
Okay, fine. I'm audible now. Yeah, guys, as you will know, the spaces are hosted every Tuesday. And it seems like the weather is starting to pick up. So those who are all-season farmers, we are making it, guys. Winter is about to leave us. which is a great thing. And then let's keep doing what we are doing. Keep learning. You can never know enough. There's always something new to learn, and whenever you get an opportunity to go to your agricultural department and talk to your extension officer or whoever, and talk to people in compliance and so forth, always get those forms, download them, like the good agricultural practice, download them, look at them, and then and tick yourself against them, to just put that in your mind and ask yourself, if these guys were to come and do an assessment, where would I fail and where would I do well? That's something that I always do in my mind. It happens naturally to me, so I always look around to say, oh, so if somebody was to come, that would be a problem, and that would be a problem. So you do that for yourself, because it then becomes a habit, and then eventually it becomes second nature. And yeah, I guess that's that. And a great day further. Thank you.
Our co-host, the driver of the show, Kels Make.
Yes, yeah, no, very, very great space. Yeah, I agree with Bratohang Hore. Farmers, like, farming is one of the noblest of professions, and farmers are always looking to provide and produce the best quality food that they can, and this is a step in the right direction. It's just that sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and these spaces help a lot. And I always tell um my apprentice, the guy that works with me, that we shouldn't wait until we're raising 10,000 chickens, or wait until that day we get the opportunity or the funding to supply Pick and Pay, to start practicing food safety, and trying to produce the best food that we can, because we know that because we know it's the end goal to supply your Pick and Pays and your spas. We should start doing the work today with our 600 chickens, SIPL, and make it a culture. Make food safety a culture, make producing quality a culture. Make sure that we focus our efforts into attaining those standards. We start where we are with what we have, because if we adopt bad habits now, we're not going to be able to change 5 years worth of bad habits in 1 week, if you get the chance tomorrow to supply Pick and Pay. So we need to start today, and that is my portion for today. I thank you.
Thank you so much, my brother. Norma, you have been trying. I'm gonna give you a moment just to, say your piece.
Yeah, hi, good evening, everyone. And wow, what a space. I mean, I caught most of it. And I think, this is the kind of space that we have over and over and over again until we all get the message. And, basically, I can't really say much, because, everyone has said a lot. But, like, we do need to actually follow protocol at some point. I know myself as a farmer, I've been researching to try and get my GPA and all of that stuff, despite, even if it costs money. Everything that's worth it costs money. I think we all want to grow, we all want to export, we all want to be compliant, we all want to make sure that we're producing food that is safe for consumption, because just imagine anything happens to your customers after they consume your chickens. And Amanda, you touched on this. SPAR is a massive, massive, massive supporter of small scale farmers. And I know even if you want to sell meat to them, you can, but of course you have to get the right certification. But the biggest thing with them is traceability. And I think, Tamsin actually touched a lot on this, from the start of actually recording who comes into your farm. That's all part of traceability, being able to trace things back. And, SPA actually, when I was speaking to them, they said the biggest thing for them is traceability, being able to trace this is where the animal comes from, even though you took it to a registered abattoir. So I think let's keep having these kind of spaces because they are going to help us grow. And we must keep informing each other, because I don't believe that a small scale farmer in the rurals does not deserve to have a GPA. He does. We should all aspire. I think it's all knowledge bases. It's not that it doesn't matter to them, but maybe it's because the knowledge hasn't gotten to them, and the importance of having this certification or these type of certificates. And of course, the government can also assist in terms of making sure that farmers are compliant. But in the meantime, we can help by spreading the word and speaking about these certifications and food safety practices as much as we can. Tamsin, thank you so much for your knowledge, and I'm still going to speak to you some more. And guys, reach out to Tamsin. Please, 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 find out more. Find out how you can do it, even if it's not something that you can do right now, but at least when you're on the road towards that. So thank you so much for the space, Osamanda, Butsokhang, Wood Kels, thank you so much. Papa Rola, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, sorry, I'm speaking with my microphone off. Thank you so much. I was going to say that today Tamsin had a webinar free of charge where she was actually giving lessons on today's space. So I think if you guys are not following her yet, do yourself a favor and actually do follow her. Um, Thank you so much, Tams, for making the time. I really appreciate you coming out. Um, and everyone for coming through to listen and learn and teach each other, and so that we can learn from one another. The aim is to grow. The aim is to go bigger. So this is the way basically for us to get where we want to get to. And when I saw Dr. Zuma, Dlamini Zuma in the space, I thought to myself, wow, okay. So our conversation is falling on the right ears, you know. So guys, there's a friend of mine who's a runner who once said, keep doing what you love and do it perfectly. Somebody is watching, people are listening. So whenever you live within your call, that's how, if you guys can remember, that's how I got my solar system um installed for free for me, because I was me. When I called into that radio, I was Amanda. I was honest about my challenges in regards to my hatchery business. I said, this is what I need. I could have said, I'm gonna go buy handbag or buy Brazilian, because but that's not what I need. That's not who I am. That's not where I am in life. I said I need a solar, and God and my ancestors made sure that somebody was listening, and that same person came. Less than 13 days later, I had a solar system installed for my incubator. So always do you, be true to yourself, be true to your journey, and you'll never know who's listening and what God is going to bless you with. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining the space continuously. We're learning so much from these spaces. Next week it is Q&A, and that other week we are going to have someone from Fair Play coming to talk to us about the chicken the poultry master plan. So guys, come through, please come with questions in regards to that, so that we can come back here armed, knowing what it is exactly that the poultry master plan has in store for us. And hopefully we're not just listening in spaces, we're actually learning and taking the step forward to act on that, so that we can become better. Yeah, guys, I think basically we're done. Guys, we had Dr. Lamini Zuma in our miniature space.
Dude, man, like I think I started stuttering, but I was like, what Dr. Dlamini is this? What? But yeah, guys, thank you so much. Have a lekker evening further. I really appreciate this all. And like Amanda said, we move from strength to strength. Good evening and good night, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much,
Bye.
Bye.
Tenzin. Bye.
Hey, Amanda,
I'm
I just
trying,
didn't know.
Abuti. Worrying.
No, it's fine. Reserved.
Ah, Abuti. Motho a ko na le mo spacing ka go kopa.
Okay, sharp.